Hello, we've seen and we've heard about the frustration over San Francisco's homeless crisis. It's made national headlines. And then you have business owners and neighbors.
For years, RVs were seen as a last lifeline, cheap, temporary shelter when everything else fell apart. But in 2026, that lifeline is gone. What once helped people recover is now draining their income faster than rent ever did, turning survival into a financial trap with no exit. For decades, RVs functioned as affordable bridges between housing crises and recovery. In 2026, that bridge no longer exists. While used RV prices have dropped from their 2021 peak, total ownership costs have risen sharply. Insurance premiums for older RVs have increased 20 to 40% in many states, especially for full-time policies. Registration fees, emissions compliance, and mandatory inspections have expanded in at least 18 states, creating upfront costs that didn't exist 5 years ago. Fuel costs remain volatile. A single relocation cycle, moving an RV every few days to avoid citations, can cost $300 to $600 per month in fuel alone. Repairs are no longer optional. A blown tire now averages $400 to $700, roof resealing can exceed $2,000, and engine or transmission failures routinely surpass $6,000 to $10,000. These amounts are unreachable for people already displaced. Unlike apartments, RVs depreciate. Money spent doesn't build equity or improve credit standing. This creates a financial treadmill with constant expenses but no progress. In 2026, many RV dwellers spend 50 to 70% of their income just keeping the vehicle functional and legal, leaving little ability to save for deposits, first month's rent, or application fees that often exceed $3,000 up front. What once served as a short-term solution has become a long-term cost sink, trapping people in survival mode instead of allowing recovery. By 2026, vehicle dwelling restrictions have expanded rapidly under zoning, public safety, and sanitation codes. Over 60% of U.S. cities with populations above 100,000 now enforce some form of overnight vehicle ban, time-restricted parking, or vehicle length limitation. Many laws aren't labeled as anti-homeless, but instead framed as traffic, blight, or safety regulations, making them harder to challenge legally. Common restrictions include 72-hour limits, no parking zones between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., and bans on vehicles over 22 feet long, effectively excluding most RVs. Enforcement is inconsistent but cumulative. Each citation may be small, $50 to $150, but repeated violations escalate into warrants, booting, or tow eligibility. The key issue is instability. Constant relocation disrupts sleep, work schedules, healthcare access, and schooling for children. People are forced to move farther from employment hubs, increasing commute costs and reducing job reliability. Some municipalities now use license plate tracking or resident complaint mapping, shrinking safe areas over time. In 2026, RV dwellers are no longer reacting to isolated enforcement. They're navigating systematic displacement, where every legal overnight space becomes temporary. Without legal, stable parking, escaping RV homelessness becomes mathematically impossible, regardless of effort or income. Towing is the single most devastating event in RV homelessness, and in 2026, it's more common than ever. Average tow and impound fees range from $1,200 to $3,500, depending on vehicle size and storage duration. Many cities charge daily impound fees of $80 to $150, meaning costs can double within weeks. For people living paycheck to paycheck, one tow erases months or years of financial progress instantly. Missed workdays during impound recovery lead to job loss. Personal property is often inaccessible or damaged. In some cases, RVs are auctioned after 30 to 45 days, legally stripping people of their only shelter and remaining assets. Towing also triggers secondary consequences. Insurance policies may be canceled. Registration lapses follow. Replacing the RV is usually impossible, forcing people into tents, cars, or street homelessness overnight. Studies show that once someone loses their vehicle, the likelihood of returning to stable housing drops by over 40%. In 2026, towing is no longer a rare enforcement tool. It's a reset button that pushes people further down, making escape exponentially harder with each incident. The combination of immediate financial devastation and long-term consequences creates a barrier that most people cannot overcome, regardless of employment or determination. In 2026, employment remains structurally tied to housing, and RV homelessness breaks that link. According to HR compliance surveys, over 72% of U.S. employers require a fixed residential address for payroll, tax withholding, insurance enrollment, or background checks. Mail forwarding services and P.O. boxes are rejected by most automated onboarding systems. Even when hired, job stability is fragile. Vehicle dwellers are disproportionately employed in hourly or gig work. Missing just 2 shifts in a 30-day period leads to termination in many service and warehouse jobs. Parking enforcement forces frequent relocation, increasing commute distances by 10 to 25 miles per day, which raises fuel costs by $150 to $300 per month and increases lateness risk. Remote work isn't a widespread solution. Only 18% of low-income workers have access to stable remote jobs, and RV dwellers face data caps, unreliable power, and inconsistent signal coverage. A single mobile hotspot plan capable of sustained work now averages $120 to $180 per month, often with throttling after 40 to 60 gigabytes. Benefits access is also address-dependent. SNAP, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, and disability programs frequently flag applications without residential verification. In 2026, nearly 1 in 3 vehicle dwellers report delays or denials due to address mismatches. By 2026, RV insurance has shifted from a support system into a barrier. Full-time RV insurance premiums now average $1,800 to $3,200 per year, depending on state and vehicle age. RVs older than 15 to 20 years are increasingly denied comprehensive coverage or forced into liability-only plans that still exceed $1,200 annually. Several major insurers now require proof of a permanent address, annual mileage limits, or designated storage locations. These requirements automatically exclude vehicle dwellers. Policy cancellations have increased, and reinstatement often requires full payment upfront, not monthly billing. Registration requirements have also tightened. States have expanded inspection mandates, emissions testing, and compliance fees. Re-registration after lapse commonly costs $400 to $900, including penalties. In many cities, an unregistered or uninsured RV becomes immediate tow eligible, regardless of parking legality. Once compliance is lost, recovery is extremely difficult. Towed vehicles cannot be released without proof of insurance and valid registration, creating a circular barrier. Daily impound fees of $80 to $150 compound quickly, pushing total recovery costs beyond $2,500 in under 2 weeks. In 2026, insurance and registration no longer function as neutral requirements. They operate as administrative choke points, silently trapping people in RV homelessness by making legal operation financially unreachable. In 2026, RV maintenance has become one of the biggest barriers to escaping homelessness. Unlike apartments, RVs require constant mechanical and structural upkeep just to remain habitable. The average RV over 15 years old now requires $3,500 to $6,000 per year in maintenance to stay road legal and weather safe. For many vehicle dwellers, this equals 20 to 30% of annual income. Tires are a major expense. RV tires age out every 5 to 7 years, regardless of mileage. Replacement costs range from $350 to $700 per tire, meaning a full set can exceed $2,000 to $4,000. Roof leaks are equally common. Resealing averages $1,500 to $3,000, while untreated leaks can destroy insulation, wiring, and flooring within months. Mechanical failures escalate quickly. Engine or transmission repairs frequently surpass $6,000 to $10,000, instantly wiping out savings. Mobile mechanics, often the only option, charge 20 to 40% more than shop rates. Deferred repairs lead to breakdowns, missed work, and tow risk. Because RVs depreciate, money spent doesn't improve resale value or housing prospects. In 2026, maintenance traps people in a survival cycle. Every dollar keeps the RV alive for another month, but moves them no closer to stable housing. Campgrounds were once a safety valve for RV homelessness. In 2026, that valve is nearly closed. Monthly campground rates have risen 40 to 60% since 2020, with many now charging $900 to $1,600 per month, not including electricity. Seasonal demand pushes short-term rates to $50 to $100 per night, far beyond sustainable levels. Stay limits have also tightened. Many parks now enforce 14-day or 30-day maximums, preventing long-term stability. Older RVs, often defined as 10 to 15 years old, are increasingly rejected due to appearance policies. This excludes the majority of RV homeless rigs. Availability is another issue. Full hookup sites are booked months in advance by tourists, remote workers, and seasonal residents. Even when space exists, upfront deposits and background checks create barriers. Electricity alone can add $150 to $300 per month. Without campground access, RV dwellers are forced back into streets and industrial zones, increasing enforcement risk. In 2026, campgrounds no longer function as transitional housing. They operate as premium lodging, inaccessible to those who need them most. The combination of high costs, strict policies, and limited availability has effectively removed campgrounds as a viable option for people experiencing homelessness. Emergency shelters are not designed for people living in vehicles. In 2026, over 85% of shelters require individuals to abandon vehicles to access beds. This means giving up their only shelter, transportation, and storage, an impossible trade-off for most people. Shelters also impose strict rules including curfews, limited stays, and mandatory daytime exit. Average shelter stays are capped at 30 to 90 days, with no guarantee of housing placement afterward. For RV dwellers, surrendering a vehicle for a temporary bed risks permanent loss of independence and mobility. Shelters rarely accommodate couples, families, pets, or medical equipment. RV dwellers skew older, with nearly 40% over age 50, many with mobility or health issues. Communal shelter environments increase health risks and stress, particularly for vulnerable populations. Because shelters cannot accommodate vehicles, RV homelessness exists outside the traditional support system. In 2026, this exclusion leaves RV dwellers without case management, housing vouchers, or transition programs. They're cut off from the very resources meant to help people escape homelessness. The structural mismatch between shelter systems and vehicle dwelling means that RV homeless populations remain invisible to official counts and services. This creates a gap where people are simultaneously homeless and excluded from homelessness assistance, trapped in a category that receives neither support nor recognition. Health issues are both a cause and consequence of RV homelessness. In 2026, the average medical debt in collections exceeds $2,800 per person, and nearly 1 in 4 RV dwellers report ongoing untreated conditions. Without stable addresses, insurance coverage lapses, and preventative care disappears entirely. RV dwellers face higher rates of chronic illness due to stress, exposure, and disrupted sleep. Prescription costs alone can exceed $200 to $400 per month without insurance. Emergency room visits become the default for medical care, costing thousands and generating new debt with each occurrence. Medical debt directly blocks housing access. Over 90% of landlords check credit reports, and medical collections, even small ones, can trigger automatic denial. Disability applications take 12 to 24 months to process, during which income is severely limited or non-existent. In 2026, medical debt acts as a long-term anchor, preventing savings, damaging credit, and locking people into RV homelessness even after health stabilizes. The combination of ongoing health needs, inability to access preventative care, and accumulating debt creates a cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Without intervention, medical issues compound over time, further reducing the likelihood of successful transition to stable housing and creating permanent barriers to economic recovery. Families living in RVs face compounding challenges in 2026. School enrollment often requires proof of residency, utility bills, or leases. Without these documents, families face delays or scrutiny from school districts and child services. Over 60% of vehicle-dwelling families report enrollment difficulties that disrupt children's education. Childcare access is limited by location instability. Missed school days increase due to relocations and enforcement pressure. Families are also more visible targets for neighbor complaints, increasing police contact and citation risk. The presence of children often triggers additional scrutiny from authorities and community members. Housing requirements are stricter for families. Landlords demand higher income ratios, often 3 times rent, and longer lease terms. Security deposits, application fees, and move-in costs regularly exceed $4,000 to $6,000, far beyond what RV living families can save while managing daily survival expenses. Child welfare involvement adds another layer of complexity. Reports to Child Protective Services, even unfounded ones, create permanent records that complicate housing applications. Fear of family separation prevents many parents from seeking help or accessing services. In 2026, these structural barriers make family exit from RV homelessness far harder than for individuals. The additional requirements, costs, and scrutiny create obstacles that families cannot overcome without significant financial assistance and supportive services that are rarely available. By 2026, RV homelessness is treated primarily as an enforcement issue rather than a housing issue. Cities have expanded police and code enforcement budgets while reducing tolerance for vehicle dwelling. In many metro areas, RV-related complaints have increased 30 to 50% since 2021, triggering routine patrols and citation sweeps. Most enforcement actions begin with minor violations including parking time limits, expired tags, or visible belongings, but escalate quickly. A single RV can receive 5 to 10 citations per month, each ranging from $50 to $250. Unpaid fines convert into warrants or tow eligibility. In some cities, enforcement officers are authorized to issue citations without prior warning. Police presence also disrupts employment. RV dwellers report losing jobs after repeated late arrivals caused by forced relocations or overnight displacement. Court appearances related to citations can require 8 to 20 unpaid hours per month, directly cutting income and creating additional financial stress. Importantly, enforcement is uneven. Neighborhood complaints drive action, pushing RV dwellers into industrial zones, floodplains, or unsafe outskirts. In 2026, RV homelessness is no longer passively tolerated. It's actively managed through pressure, fines, and displacement, making long-term stability statistically unlikely. The policing approach treats symptoms while ignoring underlying housing shortages and economic factors. Despite years of discussion, affordable housing supply remains critically short in 2026. The United States faces an estimated 6.5 to 7 million unit deficit for low-income renters. New construction overwhelmingly targets higher income brackets, with over 70% of new units priced above median rent levels. Entry-level rentals remain scarce. In many cities, vacancy rates for units under $1,200 per month sit below 3%, creating intense competition among applicants. Application processes now routinely involve credit checks, income verification, background screening, and fees totaling $200 to $400 per application, often non-refundable. Even when income improves, RV dwellers are outcompeted by applicants with stronger rental histories. Landlords prefer candidates with continuous leases and stable addresses, criteria RV dwellers cannot meet by definition. Housing waitlists stretch 18 to 36 months, far longer than most people can survive without stability. In 2026, the housing market doesn't provide a landing zone for people exiting RV homelessness. The supply mismatch ensures that even financially ready individuals face rejection after rejection, prolonging displacement indefinitely. Without construction focused on affordable units and policies that prioritize housing vulnerable populations, the gap between need and availability continues widening, making individual effort increasingly irrelevant to housing outcomes. Credit damage is one of the most persistent barriers to escaping RV homelessness. By 2026, average renter credit score requirements range from 620 to 700, depending on market conditions. RV dwellers often fall below this threshold due to medical debt, missed payments, or previous evictions accumulated during periods of instability. Even minor collections matter significantly. A single unpaid bill of $300 to $500 can reduce a credit score by 50 to 100 points, triggering automatic denial in screening software. Eviction records, which remain visible for 7 years, block applications regardless of current income or circumstances. Rebuilding credit while homeless is extremely difficult. Secured cards require deposits of $200 to $500, money most RV dwellers cannot spare while managing daily survival. Late fees compound quickly, and missed payments during instability deepen damage, creating a downward spiral. In 2026, credit screening has become more automated and less forgiving. Landlords rely on algorithms, not context or individual circumstances. This transforms past hardship into a permanent exclusion mechanism, preventing RV dwellers from re-entering the rental market even after stabilization and income improvement. The credit system effectively creates a permanent underclass of people who, despite employment and income, cannot access housing due to financial decisions made during crisis periods. Without credit repair programs or alternative screening methods, this barrier remains insurmountable for most. As cities restrict RV parking, many dwellers are pushed into remote or rural areas. In 2026, this displacement comes with significant risks and costs. Access to healthcare, food, employment, and emergency services declines sharply outside urban zones, creating new survival challenges. Fuel costs rise immediately. Longer trips for work or supplies increase monthly fuel spending by $200 to $400. Internet access becomes unreliable, disrupting remote work, job searches, and benefit applications. Cellular data plans often fail beyond coverage zones, creating communication isolation. Safety is also a major concern. Remote areas lack lighting, surveillance, and rapid emergency response. Response times for police or medical emergencies can exceed 30 to 45 minutes, compared to 5 to 10 minutes in cities. This delay can be life-threatening for health crises. Without services, costs increase while income opportunities drop. What appears cheaper initially becomes unsustainable over time. In 2026, pushing RV dwellers into remote zones doesn't solve homelessness. It increases risk, isolation, and long-term instability, while making employment and service access nearly impossible. The displacement to remote areas essentially removes people from the systems and opportunities they need to escape homelessness, creating geographic barriers that compound existing economic and social obstacles. Distance becomes another form of exclusion. The demographic profile of RV homelessness has shifted significantly. By 2026, over 45% of RV dwellers are age 55 or older, with many on fixed incomes. Aging brings mobility limitations, chronic illness, and reduced work capacity that make vehicle dwelling increasingly dangerous. Social Security averages $1,900 per month, while disability benefits average $1,500 or less, far below housing costs in most markets. Physical labor, seasonal work, and constant relocation become increasingly difficult or impossible with age. Medical needs rise sharply with age. Prescription costs, mobility aids, and frequent appointments strain already tight budgets. Without stable housing, health declines accelerate, increasing hospitalization risk and creating emergency situations that could be prevented with proper care. For aging RV dwellers, escape options narrow sharply. In 2026, RV homelessness increasingly resembles a permanent condition for older Americans, not a temporary crisis they can work their way out of. The physical demands of vehicle dwelling become unsustainable, yet alternatives remain inaccessible. The aging of the RV homeless population represents a growing crisis within a crisis. Older adults face shorter timelines for housing solutions while confronting age-related barriers that younger populations don't experience. Without targeted interventions for senior vehicle dwellers, this population faces declining health and safety with limited pathways to stability. Unlike shelter-based homelessness, RV homelessness lacks structured exit pathways. In 2026, there are no national programs dedicated to transitioning vehicle dwellers into housing. Most assistance systems require shelter enrollment first, an option unavailable to people who cannot abandon their vehicles without becoming completely homeless. Housing vouchers often expire within 90 to 120 days, while housing search timelines exceed that window due to low vacancy rates and competition. Case management is inconsistent or non-existent for vehicle dwellers. RV dwellers navigate complex systems alone, without advocates or coordinated support. The few programs that exist are local, underfunded, and overwhelmed. Waiting lists stretch months or years. Eligibility requirements often exclude vehicle dwellers who earn slightly above poverty thresholds but still cannot afford housing deposits and rent. Without an exit program, RV homelessness becomes self-sustaining. People survive from day to day but cannot progress towards stability. In 2026, the absence of institutional support ensures that RV homelessness remains one of the hardest forms of homelessness to escape. The lack of systematic intervention means individual effort, regardless of intensity, cannot overcome structural barriers. Without dedicated resources, outreach, and transition support designed specifically for vehicle dwellers, RV homelessness continues expanding as a permanent condition rather than a temporary crisis with clear pathways to resolution. What was once a lifeline has quietly become a financial dead end for millions. If you're living this reality, or know someone who is, tell us in the comments what it actually costs to survive. And watch our next video where we explain why having a job still isn't enough to escape RV homelessness.